Hello, everyone. Thank you for letting me spend some time with you today. I'm chuckling just a little bit at a conversation I just had, and it's kind of refreshing when someone's brutally honest with me, even. Yes. Um, just a friendly reminder to hit those like buttons, share buttons, all those good things that make it easier for people to find us, just like you did. I'm going to look at something today I thought I'd explained before, but apparently I haven't, because somebody in a private message asked me what I did, and I told them what I do, and I didn't expect the next question, which was, so what does it mean to live the way you're designed to live? What's it look like? And I gave my usual short answer, and then said, you know what? I need to expand on this. Watch the next episode. So, not trying to drum up business or anything like that, but it's just easier sometimes to talk to somebody than it is to go back and forth in, a text type message. So, it's not that complicated, right? It's kind of easy just to say, well, just live the way you're designed to live. And that's a very general blanket statement, right? It actually begins in Exodus 19, and our Creator gives the mixed multitude a choice. He says, look, you can listen for my voice and obey my commands, or you can say no. They had the opportunity to say no, but they didn't. They said, yes, we will. So in a general sense, living the way you're designed actually begins with choosing our Creator. You have to make the same choice, right? Now, I know a lot of people that listen to this, they have, and they say, oh, yes, I love God. I do. I just think it's wonderful. And they don't really know what it entails, and I'll go into more of that in another episode, but I'm going to keep this one kind of basic and simple, just for, new folks, all right? If we accept that he created the heavens and the earth, he made us in his image, we listen for his voice, we communicate, right? We communicate with him. And prayer is the beginning of that communication. Prayer is the beginning of the communication. It's that simple. Now, but we have to be aware, right? Because a lot of us have been taught, oh, if we just ask, if we just ask, if we just ask. Well, no. we don't try to offer advice. He is perfectly capable of running his universe his way without our advice. We don't tell him how to give direction to his creation. And that doesn't mean that we can't intervene or request something to change for someone else's benefit, for our own benefit, to give us guidance, instruction. It's like a lot like Abraham. Right? He was questioning the destruction of the cities. And he finally said, well, if just one righteous person lives there, he's still going to destroy the whole thing? Well, if somebody we know needs help and we are not capable of giving them the help they need, whether it's financial or physical limitations, whatever it might be, if we are not able to offer the help that they actually need, well, it's perfectly okay to pray and say, I'm not in a position to do this, but I know that you know someone who is. Would you, send them to this person so that this person can get the help they need? That's an intercessory prayer, right? You're intervening on someone's behalf for their benefit. That's perfectly acceptable, perfectly logical. And I knew somebody years ago. Just a couple years after they got married, a spouse was killed in an automobile accident. Terrible, terrible, terrible situation. And I remember they lived quite a ways away, about an hour away, and we would be up visiting that area for different things, and people would say, "Oh, it's just terrible." Our whole church is praying for them. We want this to happen, and we want that to happen. We want something else to happen. But what actually happened, the result was far better than anybody could have imagined. And it was meaningful. It was beneficial. It was just way better than they could ask for. Way better than they could ask for. It just, I hadn't thought about that in a long time until I was put this together. And it still just amazes me how our Creator works sometimes. Obeying his commands is important. And while we do that, not everybody's capable of doing these commands exactly the same way, right? And I've used this example before. When we rest on the Sabbath, not everybody is going to do it the exact same way. Not everybody's going to wake up at the exact same time. Not everybody's going to eat the same thing. We're not in the wilderness eating manna anymore, right? Not everybody's going to offer the same prayers. Different people have different needs. They have different desires. They have other people that they need to pray for. A young married couple is, if they don't have any children yet, they're going to do things much differently than a couple that has children. And an older couple, maybe their children are grown, they're going to do things differently than a young couple with no children or with children. Now, does that mean that they're not observing the Sabbath? Of course it doesn't mean that. They're observing it, and hopefully on the same day, but in a way that suits them as individuals. You can honor and praise your Creator differently, many different ways, as long as you're doing it the way he's asking you to. Just because tradition tells us one thing doesn't mean that's the only way to do it. It's only a tradition. He created individuals. He gives each of us skills and talents to use. More on that in a second. But we use those. We use those as individuals, and we worship and we praise and we observe as individuals. Sometimes it's communal, but more often than not, it's individual. Our skills and our talents are different. Some people are doctors, some people are mechanics, some people are carpenters or plumbers. But we use those skills and those talents to benefit the people around us, right? One thing that we have in common is we find a way to use these, as we're using these skills and as we're using these talents, we find a way to use them that makes what we're doing worshipful and meaningful, right? We can honor our Creator as we use the things he's given us to use. There's a lot more to living the way we're designed than simply checking off a list of commands at the end of the day. Think of it this way. At the end of the day, you're sitting there and you think, well, I didn't murder anybody today. I'm good with that. Didn't commit adultery today. I can check that one off too. I didn't steal anything, so I'm good there. You get the picture, right? The Creator's commands should be first welcomed into our hearts and our minds. And this could be considered the spiritual aspect of obedience. We accept what he's saying. And then these spiritual matters, the acceptance in our spirit that his commands are meaningful, praiseful, worshipful, those kind of things, they would then manifest themselves into the physical world that we live in. We love our Creator and we reject idols. We reject other gods. Him first, then move on to loving our neighbor, honoring our father and mother, right? Observing the Sabbath. We don't commit murder just because we're told not to, or we don't want to go to prison, or worse. We don't murder because we have first accepted that our Creator knows more than we do, and he chooses life over death. Now, I need to remind you, since I'm using this example, murder is defined as killing someone without just cause. Okay? So when it does become necessary to take someone else's life to prevent the death of an innocent, it's no longer considered murder. It's considered justifiable. There's a huge difference between the two that I'm not going to get into right now. But just remember that. Just remember that. We don't murder, and we don't kill for just the sake of killing. Think about that, right? Oh, I love you, God, as you're stabbing somebody for no good reason. That would make you a hypocrite, right? We don't commit adultery just because we're told not to. We avoid adultery because, we first accept that adultery is wrong. It causes a divide between mankind and between our Creator. It causes a divide between spouse or spouses, depending on who's involved. It divides society. It really does. It destroys the basic family unit of marriage, breaking the covenant and violating the trust between husband and wife. Simply being obedient for the sake of being obedient is worthless. and I should say it like that. I should say it like that. It's worthless. Just going through the motions because, I'm supposed to do this. If you don't have that spiritual connection, it's kind of useless. Being obedient just because it's commanded makes obedience useless. And, it's that sad. It's that sad. Look at Malachi chapter 1, verses 6 through 8. A son honors his father and servant his master. But if I am a father, where is my honor? If I'm a master, where is your fear of me? Says Jehovah of hosts. To you, priests who despise my name. But you ask, how have we despised your name? By presenting defiled food at my altar. Well, how have we defied you? By saying the table of the Lord is contemptible. When you offer blind animals for sacrifice, is it not wrong? When you present the lame and sick ones, is it not wrong? Try offering them to your governor. Would he be pleased with you and show favor to you? Oh my. You see, your heart needs to be in this. Your heart needs to be in this. Just going through the motions isn't good enough. Doing the least you can do isn't good enough. But when we first accept his commands in our hearts and our minds, we then have a desire to offer the best we can, to do the best we can. Living the way we are designed to live is more than just looking like we're living right? You going to church, going to synagogue, not letting people see your sin. Am I stepping on toes now? Living the way we're designed to live is avoiding sin to begin with. So you don't have to worry about hiding it from somebody. Right? We should have a desire to be around the people who will build us up and not tear us down. That gathering together with like believers, right? And no, it's not going to be the same for each of us. It's not going to be the same for each of us. We're different. Each of us, are individuals. We're going to worship just a little differently. And each of us is going to honor our Creator just a little differently. And the one thing we have in common is that even though it looks different to somebody outside looking in, people are watching. And they're saying, well, that person over there, they're doing it this way and they're benefiting. And that person over there is doing it kind of the same, but a little different. And they're benefiting. Those folks over there, they're not doing it at all. And look at their lives. Look at their lives. They look just like the rest of the world, even though they claim to be, and I'm going to use the word religious here, right? They claim to be religious, but what religion are they practicing? Are they really doing what they're supposed to be doing, like these folks over here? Because I see the benefit over here. I'm not seeing it over there. People are watching. Sometimes people watch to see if you will fail. Sometimes people watch because they're curious. You have piqued their interest, so to speak. You have piqued their interest. So yes, living the way we're designed to live is going to look just a little bit different for everyone. But the honoring our Creator part looks the same. The loving Him looks the same. Loving each other looks the same. Doing the best we are able to do should look the same. Although different. Right? Because, what I'm able to offer someone might be different than what you're able to offer someone. What you're able to offer someone may be far better than what I would ever hope to give someone. So it's going to be just a little different, but the spirit behind it is there. The desire to help, the desire to love, the desire to be obedient is there. And that is something to think about until next time. Until then, I do wish you many, many blessings, everyone.